He was the most famous killer whale on the planet, a 6-ton celebrity that families paid millions to see. But what the glossy brochures and smiling trainers never told you was that he had a rap sheet. He was already a killer with 2 bodies to his name. They kept putting him on stage, in front of thousands of people, until the day the monster they created couldn't be hidden anymore. This isn't the story of a tragic accident. This is the story of murder number 3. If you want to know the truth they tried to bury, stick around and make sure you hit that subscribe button. It's showtime. February 24th, 2010. The Orlando sun beats down on a kingdom built of concrete and chlorinated water. SeaWorld. It smells like sunscreen, popcorn, and a faint chemical tang of sanitized ocean. It's the pinnacle of family entertainment. At the center of this kingdom is the Dine with Shamu experience, where poolside tables are sold out. And in the center of that pool is Tilikum, the undisputed king. He's a behemoth, a living skyscraper of black and white muscle, over 22 feet long and weighing more than a school bus. He's the patriarch of SeaWorld's entire orca dynasty. His face is on billboards, his plush toys are in the gift shops. To the world, he's a smiling superstar. With him in the water is Dawn Brancheau, 40 years old, with a megawatt smile and a physique that spoke of a life dedicated to this work. She wasn't just a trainer, she was the poster girl, the living embodiment of the SeaWorld dream, the impossible friendship between human and nature's perfect predator. After a flawless show, she lies down on a submerged ledge, inches from Tilikum, rewarding him. The water laps gently around her. The crowd is mesmerized. This is what they paid for. The trust, the connection, the magic. Then, in the space of a single indrawn breath, the magic dies. With a speed that defies his size, Tilikum's head turns, his jaws open, and he takes her. He doesn't just nip. He latches onto her arm and, with the force of a hydraulic press, rips her from the ledge. The water explodes in a white froth as she disappears beneath the surface. The fairy tale has just become a blood-soaked nightmare. The scene descends into chaos. Happy, clapping families are suddenly screaming. Trainers rush to the edge of the pool, their faces masks of disbelief and terror. They blow whistles, they bang on buckets, they deploy emergency nets. All the signals Tilikum has been trained his entire life to obey. He ignores them all. He has gone rogue. What unfolds is not a frenzied, mindless attack. It's a chillingly deliberate display of power. He doesn't kill her quickly. He toys with her. He drags Dawn's body around the maze of interconnected pools, pulling her down, holding her at the bottom until her lungs give out, then surfacing with her in his mouth as if she were a trophy. It was a statement. This wasn't an animal. This was an inmate taking a hostage, and the entire prison was his stage. For 45 minutes, he held on to her, refusing to let the desperate rescue teams get near. By the time they finally tricked him into a smaller medical pool and raised the floor to retrieve Dawn, she was gone. The autopsy would later reveal she hadn't just drowned. She had been brutalized. Her arm was torn off, her spinal cord severed, her scalp ripped from her head. Immediately, the corporate shield wall went up. SeaWorld's public relations team went to war, armed with a carefully crafted script. They said he had grabbed her by her long ponytail, which they claimed was a violation of safety protocol, subtly shifting the blame onto the victim. They called the incident a terrible, tragic accident, a case of playful curiosity gone wrong. They wanted the world to believe this was a shocking anomaly, a lightning strike, a 1 in a billion fluke. But it was a lie, a calculated, cynical lie designed to protect their billion-dollar asset. Because this wasn't Tilikum's first kill. This was a pattern. He was a repeat offender, and his handlers knew it all along. To understand the killer, you have to go back to the original crime scene. The place where he was the victim. 1983, the cold gray waters off Iceland. A 2-year-old Tilikum swims in the only world he has ever known. A world of limitless horizons, cradled in the safety of his pod, his family. The ocean is alive with their symphony of clicks and whistles. Then, the roar of boat engines shatters the peace. A brutal hunt begins. He's chased to exhaustion, separated from his mother, and trapped in a suffocating net. His last memory of freedom is the sound of his family's panicked screams. This was his genesis. A kidnapping. He was cargo now, sold to a small, bleak marine park in British Columbia called Sealand of the Pacific. His world shrank from an infinite ocean to a concrete coffin. This is where Tilikum the prisoner was forged. His life at Sealand was a living hell. For 8 years he was confined with 2 older female orcas, Haida and Nootka 4, who subjected him to relentless physical abuse in a brutal prison yard hierarchy. They raked their teeth across his skin day after day, teaching him his place. His human captor's solution was to lock him away every night for 14 hours at a time in a completely dark metal-lined medical tank that was barely bigger than his body. It was a torture chamber of sensory deprivation and solitary confinement. His mind, evolved for complex social bonds and endless exploration, began to fray. He was a psychological time bomb. In 1991, that bomb detonated for the first time. Kelty Byrne, a 21-year-old marine biology student and part-time trainer, accidentally slipped and fell into the pool. Before she could even process what had happened, Tilikum grabbed her foot and pulled her under. The other two orcas joined in. What ensued was a horrific, coordinated attack. Every time Kelty managed to fight her way to the surface, gasping for air and screaming for help, one of them would grab her and drag her back into the depths. They were not playing. They were drowning her. When a trainer desperately threw a life ring, the orcas intelligently and deliberately used their bodies to keep it from her. Kelty Byrne didn't stand a chance. After her death, Sealand of the Pacific was forced to close. It was a PR catastrophe. But what about Tilikum? He was put up for sale. SeaWorld pounced. They knew exactly what had happened. They knew he was a killer, but they didn't see a liability. They saw an asset. He was a massive, genetically valuable bull, the key to their captive breeding ambitions. They bought him, shipped him to Orlando, and expertly scrubbed the blood from his record. They told the public he was a gentle giant. For the next 8 years, he played the part. He performed in shows and, more importantly, he became a prolific sperm donor, siring dozens of calves. Then, in 1999, the darkness bled through again. On a quiet July morning, park employees made a ghastly discovery. The naked body of a man named Daniel Dukes was draped across Tilikum's back. Dukes had apparently eluded security to live out a misguided fantasy of swimming with the famous whale. The official cause of death was drowning, with SeaWorld pushing the narrative that he died of hypothermia in the cold water. But again, the coroner's report hinted at a far more violent end, detailing a catalog of abrasions, contusions, and post-mortem bite marks. Dukes' genitals had been torn from his body. This was murder number 2. But once more the story was contained, controlled. Dukes was a disturbed trespasser. The whale was an unwitting participant. The machine kept running. This is the history Dawn Brancheau was up against on that sunny day in 2010. She wasn't the victim of a random animal attack. She was the final, tragic victim of a 30-year cover-up. She was killed by a creature whose mind had been broken by kidnapping, torture, and a lifetime of imprisonment. Her death was simply too public, too televised, too brutal to be swept under the rug. It was the crime that blew the lid off the entire industry. It led to the seismic documentary Blackfish, which took Tilikum's criminal record and presented it to a global jury. The public verdict was swift and damning. The backlash against SeaWorld was catastrophic. Their profits and stock price nosedived. Protests erupted. A generation of children stopped dreaming of seeing whales do tricks. Dawn Brancheau's death was an inflection point in history. In a way, Tilikum's final act of violence became an act of liberation. It forced SeaWorld to end its orca breeding program. It ensured that the babies he sired would be the last generation born to a life sentence in a bathtub. Tilikum himself spent his remaining years mostly in isolation, his health failing, until he died in his tank in 2017. A king who never saw his kingdom again. So as the file closes, you're left with one haunting question. Who was the real monster? The intelligent, profoundly social animal, driven to psychosis by a lifetime of trauma? Or the multi-billion-dollar entertainment complex that captured him, tormented him, monetized him, and lied about the bodies he left in his wake? Tilikum's story isn't just a true crime story. It's a mirror, reflecting a chilling image of a monster of our own making. If you now see a theme park tank and wonder if it has a stage or a cage, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that reveal the wild truths hidden in plain sight.